I'm Jeff Fritz with SoundStage.com, and I'm joined today by Gabi Rynveld, the founder of Crystal Cable. Gabi, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you so much. I'm glad to have your invitation. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that you joined me today. I wanted to talk a little bit about Crystal Cable and, of course, Siltech. And my first question is actually about those two brands. Siltech has been around for about 3 decades. Crystal Cable is a much newer company. And I wanted to find out a little bit about the inspiration for Crystal Cable and starting Crystal Cable when Siltech was such a successful cable company at the time.
Yes, it's an interesting story. Many people know about both brands and that we are a family brand, but not much people know how we started. So, as you said, Celtech started in early 80s actually. So. 83, 84, the company started, and my husband Edwin took it over in 91. It was a cable company in Holland, a small city, and Edwin is an electric engineer. So he was actually doing reparation work as a student already, and repairing hi-fi equipment and also building. It was a kind of hobby of him next to music and other things. And next to the company, he did this reparation work. There was Siltech at that time. So that was the first connection. It was a cable company, and as an engineer, Edwin didn't believe in cables at all because he had the idea that cables would not help. The last signal would not help that much in the system. And the company, Siltech, got in trouble, so he took it over in 91 and started to investigate this thing, cables. So Siltech made silver cables in the beginning already, before Edwin joined. Siltech means, actually, it's an abbreviation of silver technology. That's the name. So they were famous of silver cables. But silver cables they have the name usually to sound sharp, a little bit itchy, and that was something made Edwin thinking. So very soon he came out with the idea to improve the pure silver conductors, and that's how the real Siltech cable started. Late 90s with the first silver gold alloy. That was a very famous technology, and it took the company in a very fast fly. Many distributors and reviews and great news over the whole world. The Siltech cables, like almost all cables until now, were always masculine and big and dark, the aesthetic, impressive. And Edwin soon discovered that the same technology with the same SoundStage and the same performance he could make in a much smaller and much more aesthetic jacket. So when he presented this to the distributors, they were not really enthusiastic. They said, like, this so big difference, you can't make as the same brand such a different products. So at that time, I was joining the company. I'm coming from the musical side. I used to be a concert pianist, and when we married and got altogether 5 children, I had to, at least postpone the musical side. It's not easy to compare to combine. So I joined the marketing side of Siltech.
And what
And
year was that, Gabi, that you joined?
it was 2002, 2003.
Okay.
And then we were busy with this new possibility, option for a very different kind of cable. And I just got our fifth child, so I was at home, and I thought, okay, it's too beautiful to don't do anything with it. So I said to myself, I try for a year. I will see what we can do with it. So we decided to make a new brand, another brand, to separate the aesthetics, the sonic differences. And that's how Crystal Cable started in Las Vegas, January 2004. That was the very first appearance of Crystal Cable.
Okay. So, the next question that I have for you, and this is actually something I've heard from readers and actually even some of our SoundStage colleagues have asked this question. If you have a customer, and I'm sure you've heard this before, and they come to you and they're attracted to both Siltech and Crystal Cable, and there are technologies within those two brands that I understand are similar, but they're torn between the two. And I know it's not just Edwin's cables and Gabi's cables. Which brand do they choose? How do they differentiate, or which way would you steer them, or would it be based on their system or their sonic preferences, or what would be the considerations?
Well, there are two things. With cables, it's hard to believe, but it's really easy to measure. Anyway, for each part of your hi-fi equipment, I think the most important thing that reasonable professional companies should have this threesome. It means first, it's measurable. Second, is explainable. And third, is audible. So these three things are valid not only for cables, but for all kind of parts of equipment. And that means that the most differences are personal and subjective, but all professional companies should have measurements, explanations, and audible differences to explain to the customers. What we can tell about the two brands and the two sound stages, the technologies, the materials are equally high end, the highest end possible. The quality of the materials, they are all our own metallurgical improvements every year, new ones. The materials we use, they are all in-house designed, made, and processed. We have our own factory in the Netherlands. Some of your colleagues were visiting, so they probably told about it. So the differences, the measurements are there. We have a complete laboratory with measurement equipment, and we do show online and on shows and for visitors in the factory the differences, not only between our cables, but also with colleague cable manufacturers, or if people bring their own cables. So the first thing is, it's no voodoo, it's science.
Right.
One part of the equipment. The other part is tuning and audible differences, which is equally important than the measurements. And the third thing, explainable. If you are an engineer and in the company, in my person, we also have people from the musical side, you should be able to explain differences. The measurement differences on the other side, and the sonic differences on the second side. So what we know from feedback and from our own experience, if you compare the two brands, the sonic differences are obvious. The construction is the reason for that. So now it comes the explainable part. Why are they different? Not because we think they are different, because they have different construction. The crystal cable, because they are ultra thin, the diameter is very small, they are always coaxial. So every crystal cable is a coaxial construction. Sometimes with the higher models, we are twisting the coaxial cables, but the construction itself is still coaxial. That
Okay.
means that the sound is always very fast, very clean, and very neutral. The Siltech side, Siltech cables are much bigger, much more impressive, more material, and almost always twisted or four times twisted constructions. And that gives a big difference sonically. That means that the crystal cables are usually very neutral because of the material and material used for shielding, very expensive and a lot of quantity material for shielding. It means that the sound goes very fast, very dynamic, but very neutral. It doesn't color your system, if you like. The Siltech cables, they have more material. There is more room between the conductors. With the crystal coaxials, it's one conductor with double or triple isolation, and that's it. There's no room for air, for any other kind of options. With Siltech, you can use the room between the conductors. You can fill it with air. You can fill it with other kind of isolation materials, which can make the sound fuller, maybe warmer. It often has a color. It has a lot of detail, which will come in the crystal cable as well. But the biggest difference, because of the quality and the quantity of the materials, the Siltech cable will reveal your system. So if you have amplifiers, if you have loudspeakers, whatever other components, and you put in Siltech cables, you will immediately hear the spots where you have room for improvement. That means that it reveals, if you like, the errors in your system, which is a great thing because there you go. You can improve your system. You can improve not only with your cables, but you will see the spots where the weak points are. With Crystal, the general feedback is that if you have a system with problems, the Crystal cable will make it homogenic. And that, I think, the reason is for this difference is the coaxial construction.
Well, having experience with Siltech and Crystal Cable, one of the things that I appreciate is the construction quality is equal with both brands, even though the aesthetics are completely different. And
Yeah.
it's really reassuring also to hear that, and this is something that I knew, but just for our viewers, that the engineering and the measurement side is also equal, and they're also at the highest level. I know that you guys are and having spoken with Edwin for many years, I know the hardcore engineering background that he has, and so I know that the engineering and the measurement side is taken care of with both brands, and that's very reassuring to me as a consumer as well as a reviewer. And then lastly, the sonic differences. That's something that someone they just have to try both brands and hear them and see which one suits their preferences and their system the best. So I really do appreciate that explanation. Well, Gabi, the last question that I have for you is one that may be a little hard to answer, but where do you see Crystal Cable and Siltech, for that matter, in 10 years? Where are you guys going as a company? Where do you see the products? Kind of take us into the future a bit and tell us a little bit about what you think Crystal Cable and Siltech will be in the coming years.
Well, it's interesting. The company is growing very fast. In 2 years' time, we grew from 16 employees to 32. So it's
Wow.
actually doubled. Um, one of the reasons I mean, every year the global distribution is growing, so the brands are more and more in the picture. Globally, we have now 40 plus countries to distribute the cables, and that's the cable side. We also do electronics. We also do loudspeakers. And that has two reasons. One is that Edwin is a genius engineer with hundreds of ideas a day, if you want. And sometimes it's difficult for the marketing and sales side because, you know, for selling products, you need to finish them. And that's the eternal conflict between engineers and salespeople. For an engineer, a product is actually never ready because you always can improve, you always can make it better, you always can make it nicer, a new idea. So um, that's the reason that the company is growing, that the portfolio is growing as well for both brands. As you know, we have loudspeakers, we have electronics, we have for Crystal portable cables because of the specifications. It's very easy to make ultra thin and ultra flexible wires for earphones and headphones. For Siltech, we just released a year ago one of the biggest and most beautiful speaker systems in the audio world. That's the Symphony speaker system. And we have a lot of plans to grow also to the electronics and speaker side. Of course, both brands are originally cable brands. So that's the core business, and that will always be like that. What is nice to know is that all the cable series running relatively long. That means we don't change products every second year. The most cable series are running 8 to 10 years. And that means that you have time, you take the time to improve the technology, the material, the metallurgy. And only when you have a real new innovative product, then you put it on the market. In the meantime, the team can work on electronics, on new products, new ideas. So to answer your question, in 10 years, I see half of the series, which are now relatively new, still running. We will have, of course, in 10 years, a new series. As I told, we just doubled the employee amount. So I'm not sure if the way to go is double again. We have now a very nice and productive team. We just have two of our sons in the business. So it's a real family business for the future also. The two sons, they are not audiophiles, but they grew up with us, so they were growing up between music and engineering and business, and they both are young professionals with masters in business administration, in law, and they slowly give the company a business base, a structure, which we actually lacked. As many companies in hi-fi, we were starting with an engineer and a musician, and both of us have no education in business, in sales, in marketing, whatever. So where we are now, we reached it with enthusiasm and hard work and and love of music and love of the products. And now with the two sons joining, and with a young team around us, young engineers with PhD, marketing team, we are getting in a second step, in the next step, with making the company more professional. So the expectation is that with the cable series going and improving on the side, we will also grow with the products for electronics, for loudspeakers. And the biggest reason for that is the marketing value. It means that you prove to the world that your engineers are capable for big things to make, and not at last we can make our own systems. So we are not dependent on colleague companies. We can make our own system, our own loudspeakers, electronics. In the future, maybe DACs, maybe streamers, maybe. I don't want to predict too much, but we have big plans to make complete systems, and of course focus on the cable line as core business.
Well, I remember years ago at CES, I can't recall exactly what year, but you guys proved that to the world. I remember listening to the very first Arabesque loudspeaker from Crystal Cable, and to me it was an engineering marvel. Made out of glass, but then also the sound was just, it was amazing. I was really, really taken with that speaker at CES. Do you remember what year that was, by any chance?
2009.
2009.
And I
And
will show
so
them. They are
it
here
was
behind me. See them?
not quite. There we go. Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
That's the
And
very
so
first prototype.
you proved to the world
2009.
that
It's
Crystal
our home.
Cable and your engineering team has the talent to basically produce almost anything. And now with the Symphony loudspeaker, I know Edwin it's an even grander vision of what a loudspeaker could be. So it really makes me excited to see what Crystal Cable and Siltech comes up with in the next 10 years. That's the great thing about your engineering team and your companies, is that you can make anything. If it has to
Well,
do with hi-fi, you can literally make anything, and that's such an exciting proposition for your companies.
that's an amazing fact. And actually, you saw the arabesque behind me. And the other side in the room, I don't know if I can get it. As you know, I'm a pianist, so we have a beautiful grand piano, and the inspiration of loudspeakers for Edwin is actually studying the acoustical behavior of instruments. So that's the thing you see here in our living room, the glass speakers and the Bösendorfer. How he comes on ideas like for the symphony, that's the name of the speaker also. He was, lying hours under the grand piano while I was playing to listen and analyze what an instrument, a musical instrument, means, and how you can integrate it in a speaker design. This kind of parallels are very interesting, and joining with young PhD engineers. He's leading an engineering team to approach this kind of analysis and bridges between live music, between audio. And that's a kind of mission which is actually obviously came from our match musician and an engineer. So the product coming will be a match between live music and audio anyhow.
Well, Gabi, I think that's a great place to end. I think for audiophiles, the bridge between music, live music, and the audio system is the dream. That's what we all want in our homes, and that you guys are pursuing that with such great engineering talent and just the capability to do virtually anything from a manufacturing standpoint. definitely makes me want to watch Crystal Cable and Siltech in the coming years. So thank you so much for joining me today, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right,
Have a
bye-bye.
great weekend too. Bye.